Water movement, called flow in a reef tank, is a necessity to grow and maintain corals. In a mixed reef tank, some corals need less flow and some need a lot of flow. So how do you find the balance between less flow and high flow with today's modern powerheads? To help answer that question, I dropped in at Worldwide Corals for a tour of one of their show tanks.
And they're looking at all your tanks here, Worldwide Corals. You guys have tons of flow. Now, Victor, one of the owners here, says that flow is more important than lighting. You agree with that?
I do.
Why is that?
Because they can live in low light, they can live in high light, and then not thrive in it. But if you leave a coral in a bag overnight on the counter where it gets cold and there's no flow, chances are it's probably not going to be alive.
What is your overall philosophy towards flow in a mixed reef tank?
In a mixed reef tank, you have to appeal to everything. Basically, the top of the tank has to have really good open water movement, and the bottom we have to create a zone for those corals that don't need it. It is tricky. I tell a lot of my customers that it's probably the hardest thing to properly achieve.
The tank Josh is going to walk us through is a 60-inch long, 40-inch wide, and 27-inch tall mixed reef tank. On this tank, there are 4 Ecotech Marine MP40s. 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side. The front left and the front right pump are set up in a master-slave relationship, with the front left being the master pump and the front right being the slave. The back pumps operate independently.
Now on the left and the rear, that's going to give us most of our movement behind the big euphilia that you'll see in the center of this tank. That's on a really soft reef crest.
So you're trying to give some preference to that big LPS, that euphilia, so you're not beating it up.
Yeah, which is kind of a perk of having a larger tank, because then you can have zones. Now on the top right hand side, that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because we have at the top a whole colony of zoanthids and valleys, and then a whole bunch of acropora, which are kind of different in their own right. So that gyre helps because it's a good burst, a good set of, a good framing of water movement, and then it's soft.
Wondering about the level of intensity of the pumps? Hold on to your coral, we'll get to that a little later in the video.
Now what happens at night? Because a lot of people say, oh, at night, you should gear things down because the fish have to sleep. What do you guys do with your powerheads in a night setting?
I don't necessarily believe that they need to sleep, but we do turn them down to give the corals a chance to really puff up and feed, but we see a good response first thing in the morning.
Someone who's got a narrower tank, let's say like a 180 that's 24 inches front to back, or a 120 type of layout, how would you change flow in that type tank?
It's always what the customer doesn't want to hear, but you have to spend the money. More powerheads equals more coverage. You can always turn them down.
Josh, we've seen how you guys lay out powerheads in the tank, your overall philosophy with them. Show me inside of EcoSmart Live the exact schedule for these pumps and how you're utilizing the different modes and intensities of them.
Sure, let's go take a look.
Josh, we're looking inside of EcoSmart Live. Looks like you got the 4 MP40 quiet drives controlled by the Reef Link. Walk me through the schedule so we can all understand it.
The biggest thing is that tank is very open in the front, so we had to do something to prevent the sand from going all the way to the back of the tank. So what we've done is we've created here, this is our slave to the master, okay? The left front being the master. So from midnight until about 6 o'clock in the morning, we've got a constant speed of 80%.
80% is pretty good on that.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. However, being the fact that it is anti-synced with the right front, it's not combined 80%.
Okay.
So it's soft enough to keep the sand in place.
So now 6 a.m., that's about when you show up to the office?
Yes. After 6 a.m., it goes into more of a little bit more of a soft mode, which periodically it's going to hit peaks of 75%. However, it's a lot more indirect. Some points in the reef crest mode, it allows, you'll see over here on the left, really low valleys. The downtime is good recovery time, but we still need these high points here in the reef crest settings.
So you guys are using reef crest as opposed to nutrient transport mode?
Correct.
Any thought behind that?
We played around with them, and the end result, I like the reef crest.
You like the reef crest. Okay. Midday, we switch into a reef crest, but only at 50%.
That's correct. I like to take advantage of the fact that the front door actually lets a little bit of sunlight in. Our euphyllia and our mushroom corals get extremely large this time of day right here. And it's nice, I mean, for viewing pleasure. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know, but they look really nice.
Because that continues all the way to 7 o'clock, which is when you guys close. So when you get most of your foot traffic, you got most of the pizzaeum off the corals.
You got it.
You guys have put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, we have time on our hands.
So then after hours, then you kick into your nutrient transport mode.
Correct. That's something I'm playing with now. I'm not 100% sure it's going to stay or whether it's going to go, but I really do like it at this point in time.
Now I'm noticing that your left rear is constant reef crest mode at 75%.
The reason why that's 75% is if you look from the left side of the tank, there's a very large open cavity, and we kind of try to keep that clean.
So you're actually using multiple pumps on the tank and having them do multiple things, evidenced here in EcoSmart Live, based on your aquascaping.
Correct.
Wow.
So on the right hand side in the rear, it breaks up everything. So we've got reef crest, which is very randomized, and then the gyri, which is erratic.
So you're kind of smashing flow together to create more zones and more variety.
Correct.
And then at night, everything gears down to 25% for looks like 2 hours.
Yeah, and it's not a long period of time. I honestly believe that it gives them time to put them tentacles out, time to eat. It's speculation. I believe it works.
A lot of this is trial and error. Imagine as the tank grows out, corals are bigger, these modes are going to change. But you're also getting your eyes on the tank every single minute pretty much of every day because you work here.
Correct. I feel that that's a giant advantage that we have. As you said, that we do change things according to what the tank tells us. So what we have is what seems to work.
So what kind of cues are you getting from the tank that tells you it's time to change these modes?
A lot of it is consistency. If we see the coral is nice and full at a certain time of day, we want to take advantage of that. Or if the coral is telling us that the polyps on one side are not coming out as opposed to the other, maybe they're getting better from one side and not.
Any thoughts of putting a fifth power head or 2 more power heads on the back to push water from back to the front?
Yes, there is a little bit of a lower flow area on the back right hand side of the tank. I've often contemplated putting another MP40, which may be something that we'll entertain the thought of doing here soon.
If you do that, do you see yourself running it in ecoback mode, or would it be its own separate reef crest type of mode?
It will probably be something a little bit more constant. Kind of like the concept of our bare bottom tank using sweepers in the bottom corner. That corner, it has nothing in it, so just movement in that area would be better than not having any at all.
Do you feel there's any dead spots in that tank?
Yes, in the back right hand side.
So you're trying to fix that problem?
Correct.
Now, I'm a fan of having a dead spot or two because that's where the detritus goes. That's where the cleanup crew goes to take care of things. What's your take on that?
I can't get to that spot in the bottom. Not even close. So it actually accumulates on the top, and I can't put a coral there. So that's why we thought about it. It's probably going to happen.
So if it's your detritus trap per se is taking over spot where you could put a coral, so you're not happy about it.
That's correct.
And as a retail establishment, you got to use every single inch, right?
Yeah, but it would look good to have a coral there too.
Well, all of you guys' corals look great every time I come in here. Good job on putting the thought behind this and also having it be fluid. You're always tweaking, you're watching the tank. I'm big on having the tank give me feedback. You're clearly hitting all the paces because the tanks look great.
Yeah, thanks for breaking it down too. I mean, honestly, a lot of times we don't think about why we do things. And now that I've had a chance to sit down with you, I do understand it a little bit better.
Here are my key takeaways after sitting down with Josh. More power heads equals more options. If you've got one power head, it has to do all the work, which likely means you have to turn it way up. Multiple power heads spread the flow demands across multiple power heads, which means you get different types of flow zones in the tank. I went home and added another pair of MP60s to my 448-gallon tank to help me create the flow pattern that I wanted. Utilize more of the modes on my vortex. After I talked with Josh, I redid my vortex schedule to include more modes at varying intensities to get the zones that I wanted. Reef tanks are a growing thing. They're constantly evolving, which means you have to constantly adapt to their needs. If you ignore your tank long enough, it's going to tell on you, so here's permission to go stare at your tank and analyze its flow.